this is me again with another ology video. So here we go, and we're going on about mythology today. So yeah, mythology is like a collection of myths, especially one belonging to a particular religious or cultural tradition. And it's like the study of myth, like mythology specifically is like the study of myths. And it comes from it's a like Middle English word that derives from like the French mythology, or the late Latin from Greek mythologia, from mythos, meaning myth, and logia, logi. And it's from like specifically the Greek word of mythos, which is like for the people. And lastly, I've got an email. And logos for speech of word or speech. A spoken story of a people. Now, mythology specifically is like the study and interpretation of often sacred tales or fables of a culture known as myths, or such stories which usually deal with like the human condition, like good and evil, of human origins, life and death, the afterlife, and the gods. Myths express like the beliefs and values about the subjects held in certain cultures. And it's like they can tell like the stories of ancestors, the origin of humans, the world, gods, supernatural beings like nymphs and mermaids and all, and heroes with like superhuman gifts and like usually god-given powers like Heracles and Perseus from Greece. Myths can also describe the origins or nuisances of long-held customs or explain natural events, such as the rise and sunset, full moon, and thunder and lightning storms. And it's like one of the most famous myths, like in a term, in the classical Greek, classics of ancient Greece and all that, is Demeter, the goddess of grain, and her daughter Persephone. I'm sure some of you already know it, so well, here we go for those that don't know it. Persephone was kidnapped by Hades, who was god of the underworld, and was brought to the underworld. Demeter searched desperately for Persephone, but could not find her, and during this time that she was gone, the crops, all the crops began to fail and people starved, and the gods were not given their due. Now when Zeus, being the king of gods, ordered Hades to restore Persephone to her mother, and Hades obliged on one condition, as Persephone had eaten a certain number of pomegranate seeds while in the underworld. And that one condition is that she spent half a year below the earth, and the other half she could enjoy with her mother. Alright, explain the seasons in ancient Greece. Obviously we know a bit more why seasons happen and all these days. it's like, and when it is warm and fields are bountiful, Persephone was with her mother and Demeter was happy and the world was in bloom. And in like the cold and rainy seasons, this was when Persephone was with Hades. As Demeter is in mourning and the lands lie barren. And it's like beyond the end of that story. In every culture there is like some kind of mythology. So like, as there's different way. Some can be like the same story but kind of written differently for their culture and all that. So like, as I'm sure like the Greeks, ancient Greeks and Romans had slightly similar but different stories, and yeah. Whereas ancient Greeks and Romans are like the most ones people are most familiar with in like the classical world. And sometimes like two similarly structured stories could be found like two opposite ends of the earth. The creation story is related to the biblical book of Genesis, for example, where a great God speaks existing into what is similar to like the creation from ancient Samaria, Egypt, Phoenicia, and even China. The story of the great floods can be found in like mythology like everywhere on earth. I pick up a dying and revived god, like a deity who dies for the good of something or to redeem the sins of his people, goes down into the earth and then like can rise again. Can be traced back to ancient Samaria in the epic of Gilgamesh, to the Egyptian myth of Osiris, and like the Greek stories of Dionysus, of Adonis and Persephone, the Persenica Baal and Hindu Krish, among every others, as well as to the big man himself, Jesus Christ. As we all, I'm sure you all probably know that in like the Western world, where Christianity may be just a tad more predominant. Yeah, that's what like mythologies answer like the most difficult and most basic questions to human existence. To the ancient world, the meaning of the stories was most important, not the literal truth of the details or the certain version of a tale, as there are many variations of birth and life to like gods and goddesses like Hathor of Egypt. For example, you generally don't believe something a god does is false, as a kind or chosen one is true, as it's like the gods and all that, and but like you don't say that anything too bad to kind of anger them, kind of thing. As but like back then, but like and to this day, they the gods are everything, and they can strike you down, they can give you blessings, they can curse you, that kind of thing. As it was understood like back in the ancient world that the purpose of a myth was to provide the hero with a truth, which also or audience for them to interpret for themselves. as some things can mean one thing to another, but something else entirely to another person. Now, as the apprehension of the reality was left up to the interpretation of the individual, encountering the values expressed in the myths instead of having that reality interpreted for them by an authority figure, as like, which is kind of saying like gods and the state are two separate things. The ancient myths still resonate in like the modern audience, as like the writers of the ancient world kind of put it for the individual interpretation, which doesn't really die out as such, as it leaves every person who has ever heard that story to recognise the meaning of the tale for themselves, as we are all individuals kind of thing. So yeah, I'm gonna say that's my video for today, so I'll see you all very soon for the news. So yay.